Hi friends, it's your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Echohawk's amazing Dungeons & Dragons article, which presented metrics for Dungeons & Dragons Edition. Today we're going to look at 4th edition. Let's look at the distinct numbers. Let's look at the numbers. So it was 135 distinct products, okay? That went for and if you took them all together, you got 13,400 pages of new content for Dungeons and Dragons. And if you purchased every single one of them, it would have cost you $2,900. And in addition to that, its time range was from 2007 to 2014. 4th edition was an absolutely incredible edition. And it really, I think a lot of Echohawk is one of these guys like oldish stuff is good and new stuff is bad. I think he's it's not complete, but yeah, he's definitely got some grognardian ideas. Although his metrics are good. I mean, I'm covering literally every single metric for the editions, and it's really fascinating because there's this temptation to think that Dungeons and Dragons history was back then. Dungeons and Dragons history happens right now, and if you know what you're looking for, you could see it in real time. Like it just like what matters, what events are occurring that are going to shake the foundation of tabletop role-playing games for the next 10 years. It is really incredible. It really is just an incredible thing, right? And but my point is, a ton of incredibly important things happened in Dungeons & Dragons history in 4th edition. So what did happen? So first of all, people hated 4th edition more than any edition that's ever existed. And there are like Grognard, a lot of these actually we need Grognard is the evil the evil D&D fan, in my humble opinion. We need a good word for, I'm aware of D&D history, but I'm not evil. What is the word? I wish we had a word for that, right? But Grognard's would be like, oh, well, every edition, we fought over every edition. Everybody hated every edition. There was some hate on every edition, but 4th edition was like nothing you've ever seen. So why did the D&D community, actually, to be really specific, 4th edition sundered the Dungeons & Dragons community in half. And actually, I would say about 65% of the D&D community hated it, and 35% of it people loved it and played it. I loved it and played it. I sat at an FLGS table and played as a 4th edition player, and I also ran 4th edition extensively, and I really liked it. But at the time, it really did cleave the D&D community in two parts. Like 65% hated it, 35% loved it. And why did people hate it? Well, the reason why was the D&D designers at the time were dealing with the ramifications of World of Warhammer, which is a massive multi-online role-playing game. World of Warhammer actually created the MMO RPG genre, and you're like, oh, there was one before. Yeah, whatever, it didn't matter. But World of Warcraft really changed the world. People were playing World of Warcraft like no video game you've ever seen before. It changed the video game industry forever. And D&D was like, yo, man, we used to control the fantasy space. If you wanted to play in a fantasy world, we were it. Now World of Warcraft controls that, and it really did control it. I remember it. I was in the middle of it. I did not play World of Warcraft. I was not enchanted by that game in any way. But what I did see was like dudes were like, hey, you saw this a lot. I got my paladin to 80th level. Yeah, but you lost your wife, right? You guys are divorced now? And you're like, yeah, whatever. You're like, what's happening? It was huge. It was huge, right? And so D&D was like, hey, they're coming to take our pie, right? They're taking our slice of the pie, right? And they were, right? So what they tried to do is they tried to create Dungeons & Dragons to counter that so that you'd have almost like a video game experience at the table. And D&D community absolutely hated it. And it almost drove Dungeons & Dragons out of business. It opened the door for Paizo to be what it is today. Paizo, Pathfinder is the Pepsi to D&D's Coke, and this anger about World of Warcraft about trying to turn D&D into World of Warcraft gave huge amounts of market share to Paizo Pathfinder, which we still see today, right? And we know how big Pathfinder is. In 2025, there were 1,300 events for D&D, and there were 500 events for Pathfinder. So like D&D is much larger than Pathfinder, but Pathfinder is the number 2 fantasy game in the world, and that all happened because of 4th edition. I need you to understand this. 4th edition came extremely close to literally ending Dungeons and Dragons forever. When Mike Merles comes in 2014 and writes 5th edition, he literally saved Dungeons and Dragons from a commercial and creative death, right? Now, I should say, one more thing before we close. A lot of people look at 4th edition today and go, oh my gosh, there was a lot of really cool, innovative things in this. It wasn't a terrible set, and a lot of the rules innovations are still used to this day. So it did have some great rules design in it, but make no mistake, it literally did cleave the community into 2 parts: 65% hating, 35% loving, and 4th edition was so bad, commercially and creatively, that Dungeons and Dragons had to be rescued, and the person who rescued Dungeons and Dragons from the Dragon's Maw was Mike Merles. That's, and in my humble opinion, every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.